afternoon and welcome to the 5,291st meeting of the Rotary Club of Tulsa, Club 2500, District 6110. We're glad that you're here, and you are going to be glad that you came. We've got a special treat today for our invocation. Mr. Keith Bailey is going to start our meeting with that invocation, followed by guest introductions from Alan Whalen. Keith? Join me in welcoming Keith, would you?
Okay, my first suggestion is to sit down. And there's a reason for that, because this will be a little longer than traditional. The way I want to start is that I was at a funeral of a longtime friend last week, and I happened to think that the only time I'd seen him or communicated with him over the last couple of years was through internet. And I recently read a Pew survey, national survey, on close friends. And I was shocked to see that 8% of the people in America don't have one close friend. And the majority, not even a majority, 38% have more than 5. And so it occurred to me that one of the things that I wanted to ask of myself is to be more thoughtful and more proactive with friendship. And it's not through an internet, email. You've got sites that will tell you you've got lots of friends. You've got sites that will tell you that you've got a lot of people that like you. But it's physical contact and being with people and spending time with them. And so my prayer to myself is that I can be better. I can be better as an individual. I can be better as an example to my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. And I hope that's a prayer that you would each share with your friends and, again, do the work that's necessary to be a good friend. As to the Pledge of Allegiance, I get discouraged, and as happenstance, we've got a media panel. I get discouraged by what I see in the media about this wonderful country. I've had an opportunity to visit 50 states. I've lived in 11 of them. And I think it's the most wonderful country in the world. And I have a video that I watch about once a quarter that will lead up to an appropriate time to stand up and give the pledge. I think too often we just rote. We stand up and do it, let's get it over with so we can get some Rotary DNA and then we can get to the program. And we don't think about it. Hopefully you'll think about it today when we get there, please.
Have you ever spent the late afternoon watching the purple shadows deepen in the Arizona desert? Or seen a herd of elk plow their way through waist-deep snow on a cold Colorado dawn? Did you ever see the sun go down in Hawaii or see the stormy waves break over the rock-bound coast of Maine? Or have you ever seen an eagle fly up out of the mists of Alaska or a big October moon hanging full over the still Dakota Badlands? Have you ever tasted the gumbo in New Orleans, barbecue in Carolina, or the chicken wings in Buffalo? Have you ever had Brunswick stew in Macon, or cornbread in Birmingham, or brisket slow-cooked over hill country mesquite wood? Did you ever drink the water from a gurgling branch in Utah? Stand on the mountain above El Paso del Norte and see the lights twinkling clear over into Mexico? Did you ever jingle horses in the pre-dawn stillness of a perfect Texas day and watch their shod hooves kicking up sparks on the volcanic rock? Or tended a trot line on a foggy Carolina morning? Or heard the distant song of a lovesick whippoorwill in a pristine Tennessee late night. Have you seen the faces on Mount Rushmore or stood at the Vietnam Monument? Have you ever crossed the mighty Mississippi or been to the Daddy of 'em all in Cheyenne, Wyoming? Or seen the mighty Vols run out on the football field on a chilly autumn afternoon? Did you ever see the Chicago skyline from Lakeshore Drive at night? Or the New England foliage in the fall? Or the summer beauty of the Shenandoah Valley? Or Indiana covered with new snow? Did you ever see a herd of wild horses running free across the empty spaces of Nevada? Or caught a walleye pike out of a cold Wisconsin stream? Or marveled at the tall ships docked in the harbor at Baltimore? Did you ever see the early morning dew sparkling on the bluegrass? Or the wind stir the wheat fields on a hot Kansas afternoon? Or driven the lonely stretches of old Route 66? Have you ever heard the church bells peal their call to worship on an early Sunday in some small town in the deep south? Or passed through the redwood forest as the sun was going down? Have you ever been to Boise or Baxley or Beaufort or Billings? Have you ever passed through Sanford or Suffolk or San Angelo? Have you ever seen the falls at Niagara, the Ice Palace in St. Paul, or the Gateway to the West? This then is America, the land God blesses with everything. And no Eiffel Tower, no Taj Mahal, no Alps, no Andes, no native hut, nor royal palace can rival her awesome beauty, her diverse population, her monolithic majesty. America the free, America the mighty, America the beautiful.
Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, thank you.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. We have a number of guests with us. Connected to the Rotary Camp Enterprise presentation, we have Kamari Goff. If you would please stand and remain standing. Max Olcott, Jennifer Williams, Anaya Williams, Jackson McKay, Cody McKay, Abrielle Denny. David Wagner has Jill Kreft from the University of Tulsa. And we have two visiting Rotarians, Cam Chandon from Charlotte, North Carolina. Hi, Cam. And we have our Assistant District Governor, Larry Boyer. Hi, Larry. Thank you and welcome, and always come back.
Keith, thank you very much. I appreciate that, especially in these times. How about a table full of Camp Enterprise students with us today? Isn't that fantastic? Thank you, guys. So today we've got a little bit of Rotary DNA that I thought was really interesting. We're going to go back to May of 1955, which was the golden anniversary of Rotary International. Now, that same year was the 40-year anniversary of the Rotary Club of Tulsa. And so our club held a special meeting that May, and there were 6 remaining charter members of our club from 1915. Each of them had 3 minutes, time crunch as always, to share their memories, brief moments, but words that continue in what we now call our Rotary DNA. Presiding was past president and past district governor Cam Chandon. Oh, I'm sorry, Cam, you're here today. This was past District Governor Ralph Talbot. We've talked about Ralph before in another DNA, and he added a touch of humor. You can see in this picture, all those fellows wore the derby hats or top hats that were common for gentlemen to wear when this club was founded. Now, the reason they wore just the hats was, as Talbot joked, nobody could fit into their other clothes from that era. He called them their young duds. A gentleman by the name of J. Burr Gibbons, who was the club's first secretary, reflected on a remarkable assignment he had received from Rotary International in 1919. He had a business trip to the Orient, and Rotary International learned about this, and they commissioned him to go and see if it might be possible for Rotary to take root across the Pacific. Even then, Tulsa Rotarians were planting seeds away from their city across borders. If past District Governor Danny Mitchell was here today, he would tell you that the Rotary International organization is just as strong in Asian nations as it is in this nation. It's a remarkable thing. One of our own members was engaged in starting that work. One of our members at that time, Dick Stevie, carried us even further back to 1914 when 4 members of our club, Ed Buckner, E. Oberholzer, Paul Galloway, and Stevie himself, they came together with an idea. And the idea was to bring Rotary to Tulsa. From their initial small meeting of those 4 gentlemen, they grew a charter member list of 25 members and founded our club in 1915, turning that conversation into a legacy that we still enjoy today. There's a photograph that captures these early leaders. Oberholzer, who was a longtime superintendent and later University of Houston president. Galloway, who was our first club president. Stevie, a business leader in the Tulsa community. And Buckner, a petroleum executive. From the vision of those men, a foundation was laid that continues to shape Rotary today. And then there was a prank by a guy named Fred Shaw. He says, this is 1955. Oklahoma is very dry. The nation as a whole was pretty well dry. This is post-Prohibition, but still dry. Shaw invited members of the club to a reception for refreshments. And I think everybody who came was thinking, oh, we're going to get some potentially bootleg whiskey here. So they all had a glass of something that looked sort of like that, and they thought it was kindly bitter. And Shaw had served them vinegar and water, and he was trying to echo the idea that alcohol was never a part of Rotary at that point in our history. Another gentleman, Ben Connor, reminded us that Rotarians are purposeful. From the start of our club, we value dignity, respect, and high standards. Programs that were presented and sought out for the meetings were designed to inspire, not just entertain. Even silence served a purpose in that meeting. One of the members, Al Farmer, actually lost his voice. He was a past district governor. He lost his voice trying to address the club due to age, and Talbot spoke for him, sharing the story of the Rotary Student Loan Fund. That student loan fund was founded by our club in 1924. By 1955, it had supported hundreds of students to attend school. It's a lasting investment in the future of future Rotarians. That legacy is carried on today, and we see evidence of it at this table at the front of our room. That legacy is carried on through Camp Enterprise and the 4-way speech contest. Thank you, Eric Ortega. Ed Buckner, he highlighted the origin of the fireside meetings. From what I can tell, They originated in Tulsa. They were introduced in 1925 as educational meetings about Rotary. These small gatherings fostered deeper conversations and connections. It's a tradition that's now practiced around the world with Rotary International. Finally, at that time, perfect attendance was a huge deal. And they recognized members, in 1955, they were recognizing members of our club who had had perfect attendance for 35 years. Showing up was never routine for those folks. It was a declaration of commitment to each other and to the larger purposes of Rotary. So, what does all that tell us about our Rotary DNA? From the beginning, this club was built on vision, integrity, service, fellowship, and even a little humor. I think, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, you're sitting at the head table in there somewhere, aren't you? The legacy we inherit was never accidental. It was built deliberately, meeting by meeting, story by story, act by act of service. And now it's on us to carry it forward. One day, someone will stand and sit where we are today, and they'll tell our story. The only question is, what will they say about us? I hope they're able to say the same things about us they said about the folks that established our legacy. An interesting aside here, Rotary was such a big deal in Tulsa in 1955 that the Tulsa Tribune published a full separate insert in the paper that day that covered all things Rotary. I tried to get a copy of that or an image of it for this meeting and was unsuccessful, but how remarkable is that? The United States Postal Service on February the 23rd of 1955 issued a special Rotary commemorative stamp. Now, Aaron Went, do you know what a stamp costs today? Is it 62 cents or 63 cents to mail a first class? In 1955, it was 8 cents, and it was a first class stamp. We have a side mic at this time. Speaking of legacies, Case Anderson is going to talk to us about Camp Enterprise.
Good afternoon, everybody. Case Anderson. I had the privilege of serving as the Camp Enterprise Director this year. I'll keep it short and sweet for you guys, but we've got some outstanding students that decided to join us today, and we're going to recognize some of them today. But, first, just a little bit about Camp Enterprise. This year was the 50th anniversary. It's a free camp for high school juniors, and really, it's all about exactly what the name is, enterprise. Teach them about business. We have some great speakers. Harvey and Eric lead a business simulation, as well as Barbara Knoll, Tim's wife. They do a great job and teach them about supply and demand, marketing, R&D, and just the concept that, nobody exists on an island, and, all the work that you do kind of together in the market kind of impacts each other. Great event. I do want to recognize our volunteers. If you volunteered or were involved in Camp Enterprise in any way and form, please stand and be recognized. Great. Well, with the 50th year, obviously we've got a great tradition going, and we'd like to keep it going. But what we introduced something new this year was a scholarship. We wanted to expand the impact that we provide to the students and help them with, post-high school education, whether it's trade school, vocational school, or college. So we have 4 scholarships to give out today. Well, 3 out. I guess I'm Canadian today. But first up, we have Keese Goff. Keese was great, did a great job at asking phenomenal questions, and was just really engaged, very curious. Oh, I guess we're taking a photo here. Really great job at asking questions, and, bonded pretty well with Daryl and one of our speakers, and we just appreciate you and your engagement throughout the week, and as well as your feedback. Thanks, brother. Up next, we have Abrielle Denny. Here you go. While also being engaged and just being a great addition to the week, one of my favorite memories is a little bit of terrified of the zip line and was able to overcome the fear and had a blast. So kudos to you for overcoming that fear. And last but surely not least, we have Jackson. So Jackson is our biggest scholarship winner because he was able to really showcase his leadership and his knowledge and his just really drive throughout the week. He also received an award from Harvey. Harvey picks out a few presidents. He led his team, was the president of his team, did a phenomenal job, and Harvey went out of his way to award him with a special pen and pen holder, which was handcrafted in wood. Really cool. But we just wanted to recognize Jackson because he did a great job and also just really gives me a lot of encouragement for what the future holds for our country and for our state and for our city. But Jackson?
Could we get all of our scholarship recipients to step up there with Case real quick? So, John.
We've got 3 500 scholarships and then a $1,000 scholarship. Total 2,500. And if you would like to sponsor that scholarship in the future, I'm sure we would be more than welcome to accept that sponsorship.
Well, Case, I'd like you to be in the photo, please.
All right, let's give it up for him again.
So Case and Dylan and everybody else on the committee stepped up and did a great job this year. Kumari, he got a scholarship because he said, I was a good communicator. It's like, that deserves a scholarship. We'll fix him right up. Holy cow. It's always a privilege to introduce a Rotarian of the day that you sponsored into the club. And so today, I get to introduce Jenny Graham. Jenny Graham has lived in Tulsa as a working writer and editor in daily journalism, magazine writing, and nonfiction books. At the Tulsa World, she was a reporter, editor, and columnist who became the first woman to lead the editorial department and opinion section. I don't know many women who have an opinion, so that's a bit of a surprise. In addition, she has written pieces for other media, including the Sooner magazine for the University of Oklahoma and a history book for the Tulsa County Medical Society. She's been a ghostwriter for several individual biographies. Jenny spent her childhood in Grove, Oklahoma, and graduated from high school in Perry. She earned a bachelor's degree in journalism and a master's degree in public administration from the University of Oklahoma. Her past community involvement includes serving on the boards of Amplify, Meals on Wheels, and OU Student Media. She volunteers with the Poetic Justice Prison Newspaper Project and the Edison Preparatory School Foundation. She continues writing columns and features about the Tulsa community, but she's given up having opinions. Please join me in welcoming Jenny Graham.
If you want opinions, I assure you I have them. Just come up, talk to me. I'll be more than happy to share. I'm privileged today to introduce our guest speaker, multimedia journalist. Clearly I'm a writer, not a broadcaster. Samson Tamajani has reported and anchored at 2 News for almost 3.5 years. A native of Houston, Samson graduated from the University of Arkansas's Lemke School of Journalism. He initially studied at William Penn University in Iowa, where he kicked on the football team for 2 years. Pretty cool. Throughout his journalism career, Samson has reported on and interviewed figures involved with elections, sporting events, major films, natural disasters, and international scandals. So pretty much everything. I think you've got it covered. He also interned at ESPN Houston as a student and is currently co-director of an international soccer podcast. I don't know if he's going to address that in the speech, but if he doesn't, someone needs to ask him about that. So don't let me down on that. So with that, Here is Sampson.
Thank you, Ms. Graham, and thank you, Mr. Carl. Been just a great experience to meet so many awesome people here today. I think this is my second time coming to Rotary. First time actually on the podium, and second time just seeing all the cool stuff that y'all have to offer here. I just have I'm going to try to make this quick. Just a little presentation here. That is my kind of trademark journalism meme I like to go by here. It's an old Simpsons meme from the 90s. I have that as my social media handles cover photo there. Just what's with news? I was asked by my colleague Brody Myers, who's our main 10 o'clock newscast anchor. He couldn't be here today. He called me up a week ago saying, would you be willing to speak on this about media literacy? It was going to be me. I can't make it. I have to travel. And I said, filling in for Brody, that's kind of everything I do these days. In fact, I've been mistaken for him more times than I can count in the last two and a half years that he and I have been together at 2 News. Either him or Channel 6's Reagan Ledbetter I get mistaken for. I was at the Tulsa State Fair last fall as one of the security guys came up and said, Reagan Ledbetter, News on 6. I had no idea you were going to come here. But I didn't know either. Thought he's reporting on a crime or something. Nothing bad's happening here. But anyway, and yes, a human did write this speech and presentation. It was me, so you know who to blame, not any of the AI companies. By the way, do we feel like AI is, at this point, doing a better job sometimes with news, or just giving us our info in the morning, or telling the truth, or telling the whole story? They're getting good, but at what point do they replace the people that we've watched since we were kids growing up here? We think of the hometown we grew up in. We think of how we found out about stuff happening. Well, it was the news services. That might be kind of going away. So do you still stick to a news station or a news or weather person, or is it by this point just a guy or gal on social media, or a video social media? So I was instructed about media literacy at University of Arkansas by some really good professors. I'll put our program up with any of them. Missouri, Syracuse, OU even. Did I say Northwestern? They're famous. So I'd put us up against any of them, and maybe that's why we dominated the Heartland College Emmy Awards. No offense to any OU and Missouri folks out there. So my journalism ethics professor, who I learned most of media ethics literacy in general, was a man by the name of Dr. Ray McCaffrey, who was retired from his roles as editor at Colorado Sun, Washington Post, among others. And fun fact, he had a friend at the Colorado Sun who was a photographer for the Dallas Times-Herald back in the day. Bob Jackson was his name. And my professor told us a story once that he learned from his friend Bob Jackson, that he was covering a certain parade in downtown Dallas in 1963. And he was in one of the press cars, about, I think it was, he said 8 cars behind President Kennedy, and he saw he was facing the Texas School Books Depository. He saw a rifle poke out of the 6th floor window. And he said that to his friend who was with the Dallas Morning News. He said, that doesn't look right. I don't think that's Secret Service. He put up his camera, pointed at it, out of film. So his friend and competitor Tom Dillard got this photo, but by the time Tom Dillard raised up and got his photo, the rifle was gone. and the person in that window had already left the window. But Bob Jackson later did get a historic photo at his job. In fact, it was just a few days later. It was this one. So as a college student, kind of a teacher's pet of journalism ethics class, I loved that story. I ate it all up. And, it really kind of encapsulates the impact of journalism, local journalism. He was just working for Dallas, had the president come by. And photojournalism in that case. So Dr. McCaffrey had this lecture once of deciphering what fake news was. Well, news is news, he said. If it's not real, it's not news. If it's fake, it's not news. If it's a lie, it's not news. If it's unfounded, it's not news. So why peddle it? Why promote it as part of your program? Why tolerate it? Why tolerate the person coming up with it? Well, the cheapest option usually wins for news organizations, as I learned, and the people I work with, the mentors I've had the privilege of learning from, especially here in Tulsa. So in news, we've almost normalized that to a degree in the last few years, especially as we get more and more advanced in the digital age. We've normalized on a grand scale, not prioritizing the need to know where we get our information, not needing to know the source of our information, where they get their information, where they get their information, and so on, verifying it. So the other main thing we keep hearing about also is news groups consolidating. Efficiency is the main word that's tossed around. It's more efficient. It's better on business. It helps the community. Well, what it does is make it so there's fewer newsrooms, fewer roles, therefore more work spread across fewer journalists. And being humans, we can only be able to do so much in our capacity. What does that mean? Well, AI is getting cheaper and cheaper. So what do we think happens here? Less news, or a better answer, less real news? Less verified news, less in-depth news, less news with accountability. The shallow news is what I like to think of it as. Something has to fill that gap, so it's the shallow news. So would you like to know what unbiased data shows in states raising or not raising the minimum wage? Would you like to see whether the claims your local representative made about education policy, whether it adds up, if it's verified, if it's based on historical data? Or would you rather see the basic top news that reinforces your political leanings you've already had? There's no need to be open-minded. Or if it makes you just feel good about your intuition, your beliefs, or the good old times about a certain topic or a certain way of life. Then maybe you get riled up because it pokes to an emotional appeal. And because the relatable guy in the front seat of his car has told you that you need to get angry about something or treat a certain person differently, given what you heard about some other person in a far-off land or another side of the state, or what happened one time, this anecdotal evidence. After all, this is most convenient to what we get on our phones, the algorithms. No one can really escape it. It's not your fault. It's just what the apps are bringing up anytime you check the phone. So do you ever think of where that guy got his info? You ever think what he studied to be a good voice on that topic? Do you ever think about his data pool? Do you ever ask yourself, why are they preaching this in the front seat of a car? Where is he going? Is he waiting on his Chick-fil-A? Does he live in the car? Is that his job now? Is that just the office now? they get a new shirt, they just want to show it off, and then just have something to talk about. Next thing you know, they think they're an expert because they got 20 likes on it, 200 likes, 2,000 likes. So the authority and final say of what is now coming from our newscasts, and news teams all across the nation, big, small, cable news, not, is that of the business people. And we know it darn well in Tulsa by this point. And it's in the sponsorships too. We need to sell ad space. We need it now, we need it fast, we need it cheap. And those last three sentences are the philosophy of the corporate giants buying up newspapers and telling the journalists what they need to be doing. Now, fast, cheap. And probably less of it, less of the convoluted stuff, so they don't have to pay as many people to tell it in our communities. When in doubt, just use the AI, right? I mean, cheaper. Less people. Less payrolls. So therefore, most news companies' top priorities do not include the word journalism, unless it's for PR. They're the looks, sometimes the influence, the influencer, if it's a good-looking face. And to go with that, I saw a really good LinkedIn post from a former TV news editor the other day. I'm going to say, you don't have to try to read all that, no worries. He starts off by saying, TikTok and YouTube did not invent this concept that we're talking about a lot these days called influencers. The concept of influencers actually started in local TV. It don't hardly have that anymore, but it really did start with local TV. When I read that, I was like, oh, that actually does make sense. I was that one weird kid watching local TV growing up, the only kid in my elementary class that maybe saw the key report of the 6 o'clock news the night before, and I always looked forward to it because it was that one reporter who I thought really knew what he or she was talking about. And stations had the health reporters, they had the education reporters, consumer reporters, maybe even an outdoor correspondent, food, transportation correspondent. They reported in a professional setting with professional clothes and with helpful visuals. The viewers didn't say just, I trust only Channel 5 for everything. They said, well, I trust her. I like him. I like their reports they're having every week at 6 or at 10. And I watched that segment. So that's because they connected with the person. They were from that community. They're talking about their neighborhoods. They're talking about that business that they all have gone to, that they all, maybe got a hair in their food from one time. It just so happened that reporter who was doing the influencing about this was qualified. It just so happened that they had verified sources. It just so happened that they weren't beholden to a certain corporate interest or their own benefit, their own advancement. That was more or less the norm of TV news and local news. It's our jobs. It's our jobs to live here in the community. It's our jobs to walk along the same sidewalks, go to that same left turn red light that stays red for 8 minutes. And I imagine you noticed when these reporters and specialists were gone, or the news stations were gone, and they just took other roles, other careers. Instead, maybe you got one clickbait news story, or I don't know, inflating a rat disease on a cruise ship, and the thing gets the next pandemic. And then you think, oh man, I need to watch more reports on this. What are these experts saying? What's this expert saying? What's this expert from Europe saying? What's this expert from China saying? What's this expert from Australia saying? They're all saying the same thing. Oh, and then by the way, the actual outbreaks of measles being the worst cases in 25 years, decades, centuries, maybe on the last page of the news. That's what's hurting the kids. For Pete's sake, we don't want them to get measles. But no, we got to learn about the cruise ship first. That's where all the craze is. So who's making those decisions of what to tell the journalists to cover? Is it 20th different expert saying, no, it's not the next pandemic? Or, is it what's going to get the clicks? So every study coming to us at news stations saying younger audiences are preferring getting their news from these individuals, not necessarily brands. That they connect more with people who explain things clearly, who sound like them, a voice they recognize. And you think, oh, it's the new trend. It's that person in the front seat of the car. No, it's not really a trend. It's really a return from what we had of that trusted reporter. It's only now that it's the person in the front seat of their car that maybe didn't necessarily get a degree in knowing what a news source is. So my professors taught me what to do is just be a qualified source for your area. Be a listener to what is the biggest thing going on in that person's neighborhood that maybe they just aren't getting the right answers for. It might be the biggest thing to happen to them in 20 years, but it's not necessarily a cruise ship having some sick passengers, so who cares? So I was taught also to know what is worth mentioning, what to emphasize, without being worried about getting the right politician or company or law enforcement to like you and be buddy-buddy with everyone of certain power. To service our community's most vulnerable and not just taking orders from, say, a national focus group or what was successful on the YouTube algorithm last week. I think when news stations and journalists have the freedom to do that, I think we'll have something better with our communities again when it comes to news services. And I think people will choose to watch or read this verified news more often, maybe even donate. And us journalists won't be laid off to go get PR jobs or turn into influencers speaking from the front seat of our cars. So, with that, I have overstayed my welcome up here, so I will let anyone ask any questions, demands, complaints to me. Feel free, I'm all ears. Thank you. Yes, Bethany? Yeah. Well, it's a great idea she had. So in my spare time, and I grew up, mainly only paying attention to sports. It was only like when I got older, a mentor said, we need more women in sports. We need more men in news. Do that. You get more flexibility. But no, I grew up memorizing all the scores, who won what season. I can still list off every score of the Arkansas 2003 football season, by the way. No, growing up Iranian American, I was the only Iranian American in my school, pretty much every school I attended up until college. And the only way to really connect with that heritage was through the soccer team, seeing the World Cup, so on and so forth. And as I grew older, got involved in video production, audio production, I heard about these guys producing this podcast in English, because anytime you think of Iran, you think of politics, controversial, negative stuff, when in reality their pastime is soccer. And hey, I grew up playing soccer. That's one way I connect. So I got involved and started editing for them, and now I am one of the co-directors, and I'm in the process of trying to attain a media accreditation for the World Cup. I'll be in LA and Seattle next month for it. And the podcast, we wish they would have changed their name a long time ago, but it's too late now. It's called Gol Bizan. It means basically go score in Persian. We're on YouTube. We have several thousand subscribers. We've interviewed like the head coach of the English national team. We've interviewed several people from BBC, radio show hosts in the U.S., former U.S. national soccer players, stuff like that. And the point of it is to have it in English so that an international audience can learn what is so important with Iranians. It does not involve politics 24/7. I didn't grow up wanting to be a diplomat from when I was 8 years old. I wanted to play soccer, so that's kind of why I am involved in that. And hopefully, if FIFA wants to give a media pass to me, they find me worthy enough, I'll be inside the stadium. If not, I'll just be outside the stadium. So, yeah.
Another question here. Somebody else up there?
Yes, sir.
What do you see, you talked about the important things out there for this market, what do you kind of see as like the top three?
I'd say this year we have found ourselves neck deep in the data center fiascos. We have found ourselves natural disasters. If I were to list off another one that really transcends communities, I'm talking like, has everyone talking every single day? It might change their neighborhoods, might change their economy. Honestly, I'd argue the thunder. That's maybe number three, maybe a lot lower, number three. But I mean, think of it. What did we have before? We had the Tulsa Shock. That's pretty good. We had the Tulsa Roughnecks back in the day. We got the Drillers, Oilers. But I mean, thunder. You're known on a world stage, you know. But yeah, data centers, especially in the communities of Coweta, East Tulsa, Sand Springs, Pawhuska area. There's another one I was the only TV reporter to go to down in Pittsburgh County. They're going to have a big one. This is stuff that's really going to transform communities. But, no pun intended, what does the data say? We're still trying to get to the bottom of that. You PSO is saying one thing, legislators are saying one thing, but numbers from other communities across the country are saying another. So, it could be a great thing, it could not. We're trying to get to the bottom of that, and I think with more time we're going to have a lot better coverage of that. Because we have city council meetings that are having 300 people when they average 8, you know. And this is really transforming communities. So that's something that we definitely need to stay on top of. And you need journalists to do that. What do you think the AI companies are going to give the public about AI data centers? Yes, sir.
I'm going to use your example of the companies, okay, that are out there building their centers. How do you verify data with PSO is saying something? How do you verify information as to whether it's correct or not?
That is excellent questions. We oftentimes are having to look to communities that already have them, like in Texas, when they've pretty much gone unregulated, so they keep building them, and we're seeing weather patterns, drought patterns, patterns of utility bills. That is really important data to take into consideration, but we're still very early in that stage. So we have to be very sensitive to how we're covering this. Do we start off by saying X town is getting a $400 million investment? So, oh, hey, economic news. Or concerns about future water supply for a growing community. How do you start off that story? So that's definitely one of the huge question mark that we're trying to make sure is at least included in our coverage of all the different considerations, what is being looked at. Because city councilors are telling us they don't know. I mean, they got moratoriums. The city of Tulsa has one right now. I covered city of Pawhuska put one. Not because they hate data centers, even though a lot of residents do because just their concerns, but they just don't know enough, and they don't feel comfortable giving a company a green light to build something that 10 years down the line they're admitting they might have to come in and dig everything up and restart all over again and take even more resources. We don't know for sure yet. So it's absolutely a fantastic question that I don't think I have the perfect answer for. I don't know if anyone does. Yep. Yes, sir.
You stated your claim about how AI is changing the news and the information that we get and how it influences people that are minor. Mm-hmm. And you back that up by the data that showed on the slides. But I wanted to know, what do you personally think that changed? So the news, what do you think the news speaking to more people since we don't really influence, we're not influenced by.
Yeah, asking, and by the way, it's a question worthy of getting a scholarship for, by the way. If I understand the question correctly, it's how AI is changing how news is covered and how news sources or news companies better relay info to younger audiences. Well, for one thing, companies that are buying up news stations want to make bigger and better profits, and that's not me arguing that. That's them stating that to us. And by us, I mean journalism in general, not my specific company. I can't speak to that. But for one thing, the way that you keep those profits is by making sure you don't have to pay as many people. And with AI, you don't have to pay as many human beings, so journalists will find some other job. Well, where do people get their info? Maybe the quick churning of AI info, or just the info passed along to some, influencer in Snapchat or YouTube or something like that. I think along the way, the voices echoing certain information that are conveying that information are less and less qualified to really decipher what are the important points and how certain points impact certain demographics, like young people, like more working class people, people who live in a certain city that are more impacted by one of the issues of a news story. So it makes me, as a community member, makes me nervous for how qualified is the voice giving us this information. Are they going to give us the right context of the information? And the less someone cares, the less accountability there is. And that's what journalism is. It's pretty much, it was invented for accountability, right? Does that answer, or is there an extra part that you need clarification on?
No, my question was more stated on the fact of what needs to change.
What needs to change? What needs to change? If you want my opinion on, as a journalist, and by the way, I'm not going to, people in my position aren't going to be making all these decisions. That's not how the position is. But if we did, it'd be making sure humans are in charge again, and making sure that humans with the right experience in the right communities are the ones making this decision of relaying this info, of asking the right questions to those in power, and asking the right questions of who's funding this. So that's what I would advocate for. It's just more humans in charge. Less focus on profits and more on, how is this really going to change the future of our community, of our economy, of our environment. You can't really function if you can't drive or take your usual commute. If you can't keep your same job, if you can't work that same job, work those same hours. Society itself, is not built for an unregulated kind of AI setup here, especially in journalism. When it comes to everything else, economics, military, I don't know, I'm not qualified for that. But in just what I do, it just worries me. Do we have time for one more, maybe, or?
I think we've about got it covered. Samson, thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
A lot of folks here won't remember this, but there was a fella named Walter Cronkite who was at one point the most trusted man in America. People respected him like no other, and he worked hard to provide us with impartial news, uninfluenced by AI. And I sure wish, Jenny, we could get Walter Cronkite back in here. Heck, I'd settle for Tom Brokaw and be happy with that. Maybe even Sam Donaldson at this point.
Get some ladies in there.
Well, they have opinions.
I set myself up for that.
But speaking of lady journalists, didn't Lori Fulbright do a great job for us at the Above and Beyond Awards last week? That was just a great program. I wanted to point out, Samson brought his wife, Gabby, with us today. Gabby, thank you for being here and supporting Samson. We're going to give a book to our partner in education school in your honor, Samson. Today's book is Behind the Scenes with Bert. I don't think Jenny Hammett could have done a better job finding that one. We've got some great programs coming up. Guess what? We're coming up on the last programs of my tenure as president. Karen McCannell's program chairs, Rob Gardenhire, is in high gear already, picking up speakers. Just an interesting aside, when Lori Fulbright learned that we were going to have a journalist with us like Samson, she said, "You guys haven't invited me to be a speaker at your club." So I think Rob is going to reach out to her and see if she'll come just speak to us as a journalist. On May 20th, we got Jeffrey Tannenhouse, who founded the walking tours in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Norman, really good. There's a guy that's a little foreign to us that'll be here, last name of Craig. I don't know if you know anybody in our organization, last name of Craig, but it's related directly to them, and he's going to talk to us about some of his experience in the golf industry. I'm actually looking forward to that a lot. And then Laura Garrett, who was just installed at the district conference a week or so ago, our upcoming district governor. She's going to be here on June the 3rd. I want to thank all of our Rotary sponsors. Their placards are on your table. Their support is above and beyond our normal member support. It helps make all of these programs possible. We appreciate their involvement. Thank you all for being here today. Keith, thank you again for that inspiring invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. We're so glad you're here to share that with us. And with that, we are adjourned.